Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you, Max. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Do you also have this fantasy that at the stroke of midnight on the 31st that somehow it's just all going to transform in ways that you would hope forever? And I still allow myself to have that fantasy. And there are some things that I am immensely grateful for that are new. That is like, it's so amazing. And there's a couple other things that I really could have waited a few more weeks for it to show up and just give me a little bit of time. But I just want to start today by reading a couple things from Amanda Gorman, the poet. And part of, from something she wrote called A Newsday's Lyric, a line was, "This hope is our door, our portal." And her commentary was this: even if we never get back to normal, someday we can venture beyond it, to leave the known and take the first steps. So let us not return to what was normal, but reach towards what is next. And I have something later on that she wrote too. So I wanted to do something a little different for New Year. You know, normally I work in this consciousness with spiritual community that you kind of sit there and, you know, silently listen, and I get to say whatever I want, and, you know, there's this barrier here. But I wanted for us to start the year with something more experiential. I had envisioned it in two parts, but last week, of course, we were all snowed in, and the couple of us that did show up here, it was a bit like that part in the old movie, Dr. Zhivago, where they're going to that cabin that's like in snow like here, and they're trudging through. Will, the Wonder Dog, loved it. RL and I, not so much. And when we realized the plows just couldn't make it to us yet, and you were better to stay home anyway.
You should have seen John moving through the snow.
Yes, with the mink muff, is that what you know? Anyway, I digress. But anyway, so today we're going to do a couple things. I'm going to guide you through fear to faith process using this very busy piece of paper. So don't even try to fill it out on your own with a little bit of direction. And I think this is a great tool, even though it is still a little too busy for me. But in essence, it is. I think it's great, and we will do it in various steps. We'll probably go back and forth for me, inviting you to go in silence for maybe 30 to 60 seconds to check in. And with anything like this, I recommend to people to, as your teachers in grade school used to say, don't read ahead. Don't write. We always are so certain what we think it is that's in our consciousness, and I'll write it right down now so I don't forget it. But it's interesting how if you go through the process, something surprising will happen, and something surprisingly will come forth, especially with the intention to be open. So just resist a little bit. And I know that's difficult for us. We all want to be good students, just to get it all written down and taken care of. And there's nothing like that anxiety of thinking I need to come up with something, and then, oh, I did, finally. And even if you, in a sense, you could feel a little stuck today, because that happens, know that you have planted a seed, and when you least expect it, like when you're ironing, it might be like, oh, that happens. So often our receptivity is when we are doing something seemingly that is mindless, that we've put down the barriers, or that need to have something come in. So just be open to that. And to know that as we go through this, that if you have some questions or even commentary, you can raise your hand. We're going to be a little bit more in workshop mode today, which is completely different. And if we have time, when we're done with this portion, I may invite a couple people just to share a little bit of something, but who knows how much time that we will have. And then we will go into what is usually my favorite part of the year, our burning bowl ceremony, where we, all 10-year-old boys, we love to play with fire, and so I get to do that. And I will give you directions. You should all have one of these little pieces of papers. And again, don't look ahead. So and I just want to make sure everyone has all this stuff that we've handed out. And so when we get to that point, you'll be invited, and I'll tell you the essence of what to write on here. The paper is small for a reason. Somehow we think, so usually I will ask people, so on one side it'll be something that you would like to release, on the other side something you would like to invite. And you know what? This universe that, and the spirit within it that created everything is pretty smart. That if you just even put an X on it, and you had your intention that you knew that what it was, guess what? This universe that created everything would know what that was. That sometimes we talk about faith is like, if I don't get to write war and peace on here, like every last word, that somehow it's not going to work. Just trust a little bit. And I am going to give you a little demonstration here. This is special pyrotechnic paper, my favorite. And so, I know, isn't it crazy? And so there's some candles here, and when we come to this portion, we'll probably have you go around in here, and I love that. I know. I don't know why I love that so much, but I do. So I think that's enough setup. And so let's begin. So here's what I am hoping that we will all come out of this with. From this very busy, visually not even sure what it is, piece of paper. So my hope is that, rather than, as we say, create a New Year's resolution, which we know how effective those are. So let's just get it out of the way. Yes, I will never eat sugar or anything again, and then on the way home, let's stop and get Snickers. Can we just know that that's what we're going to do? So my hope is that we will have two things. First, in the area what we call fear, or to be more familiar with something we carry or have habitually carried that we're ready to let go. Often in our philosophy, the science of mind philosophy, we'll refer to that as what we call a false belief, something that we have taken into our belief system that's just not true. But yet it serves as a prism by which we view everything. And there are so many, as they say, variations on the theme of that. But I have found that there are usually three cores in there that are present in those false beliefs or fears. The false belief that we are not lovable, that we are not worthy, and that we are not capable. Often there's a mix of the three. So usually if you have any sense of anxiety or fear, one of those at least might be involved in some way. And even the word fear, we think of the word fear as shaking in the boots, can't move kind of thing, which it can be sometimes. But often a fear is just the anxiety of being in a certain type of situation. It is just a reticence to put yourself out there in some way, and you might not even know why that is. But so again, it's not this extreme fear, it's just this holding back that is somehow related to a false belief that we've taken. Now, not to say that we shouldn't be selective, that we shouldn't look at any situation we go into. You shouldn't just, what is your parents used to say, you're going to jump off that bridge just because your friend's going to jump off the bridge. So it's not to say that you shouldn't have discernment. And often, I think a no can be something more powerful than yes when you say that in your life. But what are behind those no's and yeses? And see, is there some sort of false belief or anxiety that you're ready to clear? So that's one of the first things. And again, you may start the process today, and it may, just like I said, it's percolating, and it may just come to you a little bit more deeply. And the second thing that I would like us to be able to come up with today is I'm calling it the antidote. What is the polar opposite to that thing that you're carrying along here that's getting in the way? And the antidote is some sort of what we call a spiritual idea or principle that, that if you could only embrace that more closely, that false thing would have a way of starting to fall away. And think of it this way. So when we have difficult situations in our life, and we do all the time, I could list several right now for all of us, couldn't I? I'd just turn on the news. There's plenty to choose from. But in our mind, as we think of what would it take for that to be better, we think of a physical solution in the world. And yes, we live in a physical world, and solutions show up in physical ways. They do. I mean, if you are not physically well, a physical solution will be that you become physically well, right? But behind any physical solution is a spiritual principle. So let's say let's go back to being unwell. The spiritual principle would be healing and wholeness. So one way to, not that you aren't going to seek a physical cure, but in prayer, I would recommend that you are trying to embody healing and wholeness. Does that make a little bit of sense? So notice that, and what I often will say with people especially when we are like fixated on a certain outcome, that to go to the spiritual principle and just ask yourself, if that spiritual principle could somehow be manifest into your life in 100%, would it matter how it showed up? I mean, think of that. So, in meaning that be willing to let go of what your mind's eye is of the solution, and in prayer to focus on the spiritual principle. Does that kind of make some sense? And I know as humans, we really want to get onto how it looks. But if we could let it go a little bit and focus on the spiritual principle, we usually are more easily led to the most appropriate thing to happen in the physical world. So those two things, my hope that we will at least get some hints on. So, let's just start by just being quiet for about 30 seconds, and then I will start to guide you through here, and we'll kind of come out and go back a couple different times. Just keep our eyes closed still for a moment. And when you do go back, you'll notice at the bottom right there's a box with the number 1 that says oldness, and this is how I am feeling. So let's think of oldness for a second. Think of a current situation that is troubling you on a very personal and intimate way. And a situation that may, in its essence, be one that has a way of repeating itself in your life. You might always have a certain type of conflict with certain types of people, let's say. And even if you feel pretty clear today, on January 2nd, 2022, go back a little bit. Because again, we want to go to that, eventually to that essence of what has been troubling you. And for just a few seconds in quiet, just relive that in a sense. What is going on and how is that making you feel? Or if it is over seemingly, what was going on and how did that make you feel? We're going for the negative or fear portion right now. So let's just be with that for a few moments. Yeah, let's open our eyes and fill that in a little bit. And that, again, it says oldness. and just enough for you to know. Again, the space is small for a reason. And then the third there is, how am I feeling about this? And it'll give you about a minute or so. Those of you at home, if you didn't notice, this piece of paper is attached to today's events. So if you haven't figured out that you can print it, quick, go ahead. Put us on pause. We'll still be here. Everyone feel good? Anyone need another few seconds? So let's close our eyes again, and we're going to move on to box 2. So when bringing again the situation to your mind, you've just been mulling it through, reliving it, wondering, how is this ever going to resolve if it has not as yet? And now think, in the physical world, how would you like it? What is your hope if you could have your Christmas, New Year's wish as a human being who has a magic wand? How would you like it to resolve? And let's just be quiet for a moment with that. And when you're ready, find box 2, upper left. Again, there's a small box for a reason. Just make some notes of, in your perfect world, how would this look like? Okay, now we're moving to the cloud, as they say. Look at the top there, it says number 3. So this is where we want to get at the essence or spiritual principle that we would like to embody in this situation. And in a sense, it can be found, oh, you guys okay? Okay. So in what I hope will happen, which often is our fairy tale, like hoping to change our spouses, that's a good fairy tale, isn't that? Or, change our siblings or whatever, that never works out. But let's go up to the top there, and on top of the cloud, there are a few words that are a few spiritual principles. There are many more, but this is a good kind of roundabout selection. And so words like abundance, balance, beauty, freedom, joy, love, order, peace, power, unity, wholeness, wisdom. Now, so to think in a moment, I'll give you a little quiet time again to think that in this fantasy of how we want it to turn out, could one of those words kind of be at the core, in a sense? And again, remember back to the thing that if a spiritual principle would show up, it almost wouldn't matter how the physical thing showed up. So we went to the physical thing, but I guess we want to, what is at the core of what our hope is in spiritual principle? And again, these words are a good start. So let's just close our eyes for a minute. Let's put aside the fantasy for a moment. And what spiritual principle, and usually it's a principle because it's in one or two words, what's at the core of it? What is the core of your hope or desire or intention? Is it something like abundance, balance, beauty, freedom, joy, love, order, peace, power, unity, wholeness, or wisdom? Or healing? What word resonates with you? In a sense, what is your true hope? And if you come to that, write that one word in the cloud. So here's one way that this paper is a little backwards. So we started with the good news, where the faith and my word of that I want to build my faith on, and now we're going to backtrack again. So I don't want the energy to suddenly go, because we're going to go into the fear room of the house here. So let's just know that we're going there. We're going to revisit it. We're actually pretty familiar with it. So we're just going to recognize it's still there. And we want to give it a little bit more of a label or a name or something. So we're going to box number 4, and I love this. They drew the little devil on there, You remember this, like in the Bugs Bunny cartoons, where suddenly you'd have the little, like, yes, no, yes, no. Silly, isn't it? So let's close our eyes for a second again, and let's go back to the situation or type of situation that you have had challenge dealing with. And we went to what is our fantasy of happening in the good, but let's take the low road for a moment. What is our biggest fear of what will happen? Like it not working out. I mean, what is the worst case scenario that you try to push down in your consciousness that still can come up? So and that's okay, we're just going to do a magic energetic bubble here that it's okay to think about that fear of how it will turn out if left on its own devices. So let's just be quiet with that. What is our greatest fear in this type of situation? And when you feel ready, just write a few words into there. What is your fear that how this could just go so wrong and never get right again, kind of thing? Now that we've revisited our fear of how this type of situation will turn out, we're going to put a couple labels on it. And the reason for this is that these labels will help us kind of balance it out using our word of faith. So we're going to, number 5, right on top of the little pitchfork guy, word of error, or as I say, the false belief. So at the core of this fear, and there are a few words there of choices, what is at the heart of that fear? And some of these words are lack, depth, conflict, limitation, ignorance, rejection, death, chaos, judgment, dependency, duality, disease, poverty. So like, if your fear was that you would lose your employment, was your word of error that debt or homelessness even? I mean, where do you go when this type of situation happens? And there's any number of not so great places inwardly that we can go. But just think for a moment. And again, I know, let's try to keep our energy up a little bit. But what is, let's just be quiet for a moment if you haven't figured it out. What is the one word that is your biggest fear here? I mean, you wrote out the scenario in number 4, but encapsulated, what is your one word? And this is the word that's at your core of your individual false belief here, that this is the thing that will happen. And then moving to the left on number 6, when you are faced with this type of situation, what is your go-to way to make it even worse? I don't mean to laugh, but I'm laughing at my own self and what I have a tendency to do at times. And here are some fun words to consider: control, hide, anger, attachment, flee, appease, whine, depression, confusion, to lose, withdraw, rebel, confront. So when you're in number 5, let's say in lack, you could possibly flee. So just if you need to go and again, how do you, from that word of error or false belief, what is your coping mechanism? Again, one that does not work out well for you. What is your tendency? And of course, this is a short list of words. There are many others that you could choose from. Let's take a couple deep breaths. Let's take it in and let's put it out. Let's take it in again, put it out. We're not in denial of these things, but let's look at our word in number 3. Whatever you came up, your word of faith, envision it in your consciousness, and let's breathe it in. Hold it. Know that's the truth of who you are, and breathe it out. Hopefully that makes it a little bit better. We have one, so basically has anyone had difficulty coming up with your two polarities? You know, usually with ourselves, we kind of know already. It's usually not late-breaking news kind of thing. It's like, oh yeah, there it is kind of thing. So you have your two things. And we're going to move on to 7 and 8, but it's interesting in the teacher pages that are back here. It says you almost can't do this yet because it says we've launched everybody into process. So rather than say, go home and call me in 2 weeks, we're going to pretend that you have processed it completely. Because the one thing that we do with prayers and affirmation is that we make a statement as if it is already true and so as a kind of a lantern to guide us through the wilderness. As opposed to saying, someday it will be so, we say, I embody that spiritual principle right now as so, and no, there's a little cleanup work still. So if you can be okay with that. So let's talk about newness in 7 and 8. So part of this, it says, a person I must forgive. We could spend weeks, couldn't we? I mean, really, that's a very big subject. So we'll go quiet in a minute. And so first of all, forgiveness means that you are energetically cutting yourself off from a certain hostile or difficult or toxic situation. It does not mean that you are condoning bad behavior. It means that you are no longer going to let that bad behavior affect who you are and how you conduct your life, knowing that we can never change anyone else. So when I say, and again, and we cannot, in a sense, give absolution to anyone with what they've done. So when I say forgiveness, I mean, just think of it, whatever, like a scissors cutting a piece of tape. Not to say that you are in denial that the situation or people who may be involved are there, but to say that they no longer energetically have a control or say over me. I mean, think of it in that way. So here's a good thing. So forgiveness means they're on a sailboat and you've just put the anchor and he says, see you later, bye, don't ever come back. I mean, think of it like that. It's just they're still there and they're still in your memory, but you've like put the anchor, you know, risen the anchor, taken whatever it is you tie to the dock, and you just like, you know, bye. You're gone. So that's how I look at it. But then also to realize sometimes and often when we look at forgiveness, there is a sense of self-forgiveness. And again, you're not going to put yourself on that metaphorical boat and say, well, no, because here you are, kind of thing. But I think where self-forgiveness comes, for me, so this is me speaking in my darkest moments, I can't believe I fell for that again. I can't believe I let that person encourage me to believe this certain thing about myself. And again, this is the usual thing, I can't believe I fell for it again. And, you know, you beat yourself up. So self-forgiveness is just to give yourself a little bit of break, and a little bit of loving up and compassion, and say, but I don't have to do it ever again, do I? And you might, but still, part of this forgiveness to someone else is like they energetically are out of the picture. So I may no longer or be in those situations or fewer situations where I have to come up with, I fell for it again. Does that kind of make a little bit of sense here? Yes?
What if the person's still in your life? They're not sailing away. They're going to be there tomorrow.
Energetically, we need to put them on a boat. So, and I know it's much easier said in the classroom than it is when you meet them for coffee tomorrow. But I kind of look at it this way, is if I said, Elise, I can't believe how terrible this green hair looks on you. You would look at me like, you have really lost it, haven't you, John? I don't have green hair. That makes no sense. That has absolutely nothing to do with me or what I am. So the forgiveness comes to that. So let's say, again, I'm just imagining scenarios. Imagine this person that's in your life just perfectly knows those sore spots. And like even when you least expect it, go woof. Like, there you go. And don't we have that happen. So to be able to get to that point to say, that has absolutely nothing to do about me and who I am. So that's the sailboat part. It's like, and what I have found too is when you can energetically get to that point, that if there is a person that you have that kind of weird relationship with, and if you energetically stop playing that game, what I have found is that they kind of get this look like they don't know what to do anymore because you didn't react in the same way. It's like, so for those of you that have siblings, don't you know how to press those spots and like lifelong, we know. Yeah, see, even Duncan's lying ahead. So like I said, I joke with, my sister and I joke with each other. We could make each other cry within 30 seconds if we really wanted to. You know what I mean? It's just like, we know the dirt. We know how to get there. It's like, so the thing is though, it's an interesting, when you decide energetically not to play anymore, the other person is at a loss of what to do. And they either change or go away metaphorically. It's like, well, that doesn't work anymore. Eventually, they actually get to that. They figure it out that it just doesn't work anymore, so I waste their time. And they may look for some other reason, like, well, that one didn't work. Could I make up a new one? Eventually, they give up if you truly energetically put them on the boat and set them a sail. Yes?
It's not one person, but it's a group of...
Yeah, so usually, often a group, or it's an archetype of a thing. So when we, and again, I don't want to, it's me too, when we have a certain type of thing to work out energetically, those things show up amazingly through any number of different people. The most overused joke that I give is, gee, they married the same person 5 times in a different body. It's like, oh, I'm so done with you. I put you on the boat. It's like, oh, here's someone else with the same exact things that for me to work it out with. So it's almost like this weird science fiction thing where invasion of the body snatchers, where the same qualities show up through someone else or through a group of people. So it's not so much that you're putting the person on the boat or persons, it's that thing that always gets to you that you're putting on the boat. So if that makes a sense. These are just the delivery people. Like here's this pizza again, like knock, knock, knock. Oh, he opened the door again, here you go. Knock, 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 here's another one. So you finally realize, I don't have to open the door. Even though I kind of like pizza, but I'm just going to like lock it and like send them on their way. So that's to think about when that person or type of person in the situation comes knocking at your door, and when you're just about ready to like do your usual thing, you go, oh, I can say no. I don't have to do this. And it takes some training, and actually it even takes some training to get to that point where you go, oh, I can make a different choice. So actually that is a significant way of growth when as you are about to react to that type of person that you go, oh, I don't have to do that. So look for those moments. So let's just be quiet for a moment. Is there a person or type of person that you need to forgive, meaning put on the boat? Cut the cord energetically. And is there a degree of self-forgiveness in this as well? And let's just be quiet with that for a moment. And if you have a name or type of person in that newness, put the person I must forgive is. It might be a person or it may be a type an archetype of a person that seems to be common in your life. And write that down. And the next line there, it says, I am grateful God is gracious. I am grateful God is, colon, and put the same word that you put in the cloud in number 3. So where are we with this at this point? Anyone want to make a comment? Throw a fit in public? We'll turn off the camera.
Burn this puppy.
Well, we're going a little bit longer today than normal, but the burning bowl is, I think it was a good idea putting the burning bowl on the same day, actually. Any other just general comments? So at the very bottom is a spiritual practice for you to utilize the next few days, or forever, depending on how it needs. So the first line, as you see, it says, I release my belief in. Put the word you put under number 5. And then the second line is, I release my need to. Put the word for number 6. And then the last one, I am grateful God is the cloud word, faith, I am. And let's say this internally together. I know this is very private, so I know I don't want to put out my error words right now either. So in your own minds, if we could say this internally together, I release my belief in. Yeah, but if you want to say it out loud all, great. If you want to keep it private, keep it private. And so include your words either internally or externally, whatever feels good for you. So I release my belief in. I release my need to. I am grateful, well, and I think the next one we could all say out loud, because that's a good one. I am grateful God is the I am. Yeah, so make this your spiritual practice. And if that person hasn't been completely released on the boat yet, what I have found a great spiritual practice is to say things like this internally. So again, if I'm making that confrontation with that situation I have had trouble with, I call it my back burner conversations, that I would say I release my belief in, I release my need to, and usually this is good because this is why need to, because in a conflict, this is where you're going to go for it, that thing that you do. And then I am grateful is the, let's just say, balance that I am. And to really hold on to that again, if you're in that situation in the moment, to be able to hold on to that third thing of balance is right here. We're going crazy right now, but it's still here. And it takes some training. And again, there's that great moment where you can I have a choice to start doing this in my back burner to allow this to happen differently. So it's big. So we're going to move to the burning bowl. Any other comments or anything? Yes, Ann.
I had trouble with a sailboat, so I put them in an airboat, a balloon.
Oh, that's even better. That might be quicker. Actually, on maybe a motorboat where you could put it on high. Anything else? And let this be, I guess, our New Year intention. So we're going to close this with the burning bowl, and let me see how we want to do this. So, knowing what to put on this paper should be quite easy right now, because we've just spent a lot of time on it. So on one side, what would you like to release? And guess what? We have just worked on a perfect couple things to release. So you might on one side put your word of error and your word of resistance. You could put anything else if you want, but an obvious thing this morning would be to put your word of error and word of resistance. And then turning it over, the antidote is your cloud word. So in a sense, we're putting this in the fire as to increase. The word of error we're understanding is to decrease. And again, if you want to do something completely different, that's good too. But first of all, and I hope I'm not going to burn down the building, I have a special burning bowl thing today. I have a copy of our promissory note for this building. And for those who don't know, on December 8th, at I believe 1:28 in the afternoon, we became mortgage free. And we just got and again, I hope this is not going to be one of those things, oh, church fire, you know. Crazy pastor sets congregation on fire. So, I am so grateful that we were extended credit. I am so grateful that we've been allowed to use this building for 20 years with not paying it all up front. I am grateful for all the things that not only have happened, but continue to happen in this building. I am grateful how being your minister has been one of the most amazing experiences and learning experiences of my life. And I see everyone in this room who may no longer be here. I see the people who painted the baseboards, who painted the interiors, who laid tile. They're all here. Now we're going. Should have printed this on the magic paper.
Is that plastic burn?
The plastic is on the outside. What are those things on TV? Don't try this at home. Yeah, at home, please don't start lighting things on fire at home. And good, there's no smoke detector right there. Wouldn't that be fun?
No.
Okay, come on. There we go. Okay. It's gone enough. So you can come visit and pray over this later on. So, let me light all these candles. And so in a moment, I'm just going to ask you to just be quiet again for about 10 or 15 seconds. And then as you are ready, come around this way, then go on back, and just put it in the fire. So again, if you kind of hold it, rather than lay it on it, if you just kind of hold it and let go. So let's just be quiet for a moment. And think of the words or situation that we're releasing. We are not only symbolically letting it go, but we're letting it go. we don't have to do that anymore. It is so freeing. And it opens the door for the reverse side of the paper. A deeper experience of our spiritual practice, our spiritual principle, that thing that we can use as the core of what we do. So when you're ready, you may come on up. Some just don't give up, you know. That's okay. And as we close this portion, let me just read some words from Amanda Gorman. May this be the day we come together. Mourning, we will come to mend. Withered, we come to weather. Though we weren't ready for this, we have been readied for it. What was cursed, we will cure. What was plagued, we will prove pure. Where we weren't aware, we're now awake. And our hearts, once altogether beaten, now altogether beat.